So it seems like I'm jumping in between laptops every couple of weeks. This time might be different. So this is the 15-inch Surface Laptop 3. It's also a 13-inch. The 15 is the newest size and one that was the most interesting to me. So if you've seen a past video, you know that I generally tend to go for the Mac when it comes to laptops. But when I go PC, it's almost always been the Surface line. I respect what Microsoft does, making the hardware and the software. In the PC world, it's hard to find a laptop that generally looks unique. That's what you have though with the Surface Laptop 3. You got a really unique product that's distinctly Microsoft and looks and feels incredible. This thing looks and feels premium and amazing to hold. This is a high-end computer, giving me a high-end feel when you're carrying it around. So I dig the all black design here. I liked the Alcantara that was available on previous models, but I really love how this looks. It is a fingerprint magnet. There's definitely a trade-off there. And kind of a running theme throughout this video, there's a lot of trade-offs. There's something amazing and also something that's less amazing. So as incredible as this laptop is to hold, to feel, and touch, and look at, it's kind of annoying to open. There isn't an indent for you to put your finger in. You almost have to put your nail in and open it up, or use two hands. That's sort of a big thing that you do with a laptop. You want to open it up, and oddly, it's not that easy on the Surface Laptop 3. But when you do open it up, things get way better. You've got things you'd expect, like the Windows Hello camera that recognizes your face really quickly. So the webcam is 720p. I would have liked higher resolution, but it looks pretty solid for things you might do with the webcam. I wouldn't use it as like an A camera for shooting video, but for conference calls and stuff, it's pretty solid. And the microphones are also pretty good. The display also is really good. So unsurprisingly, it's a touchscreen. It's probably one of the most responsive touchscreens I've ever used. Microsoft does hinges really well on their product line. So there's a little bit of kind of wobble when you touch it, but not much compared to other touchscreen laptops. It's high res, it looks beautiful. It's not a high refresh rate, but it's a really good panel. So it's a 3:2 aspect ratio. And that's great for a lot of things and not so great for others, depending on what you want to do. It's great for side-by-side apps. If you want to have two Word documents open or two windows open, it is amazing for that. It's longer with that aspect ratio. But if you're watching video, you get these crazy weird bars on top and bottom that are very distracting. Now, during my week and a half of testing, I got used to it, and you might too, but you'll definitely be aware that no matter what you're watching video-wise, you're almost always going to have pretty big bars on the top and bottom. So speaking of watching videos, don't be afraid to use the built-in speakers. They're actually really good this time around. They're not crazy bass heavy, but they are very loud. Usually I turn my laptop speakers up almost all the way. The Surface Laptop 3, about 50%, was plenty loud. So I use my laptops as laptops. They're not generally docked into anything. So for me, what makes or breaks a laptop experience is a combination of keyboard and trackpad. And fortunately, it is an amazing experience for both on the Surface Laptop 3 and giving you another benefit for why you'd want to buy a Microsoft laptop. They make the hardware, they make the software. The keyboard feels absolutely amazing. There's no mush to the keys. The throw is really good. There's a satisfying clicking noise. The keyboard is just an absolute pleasure to use. And also true for that trackpad, which is probably amongst the best trackpads I've ever used. You've got all the Windows gestures in there. The scrolling was buttery smooth, even down to really small nuance things like the clicky sound you get from clicking the trackpad was really well done. You can tell Microsoft put a lot of thought into those really tiny things. So obviously it's got a great keyboard and trackpad, but you want to use those things for actual computer needs, and the performance matters, especially when you're talking about a laptop as configured here at $1,700, although the entry point into the 15-inch is around $1,200. You want a computer that can do a lot of things. So Microsoft partnered up with AMD. There's sort of a special Microsoft version of the AMD Ryzen 5 built into here. And for the most part, it's generally pretty good, but there are some limitations. If you're using your computer for like office productivity. It excels at that. So Microsoft Office Suite, obviously it's really good at that kind of stuff. The aspect ratio makes it awesome for having two things running side by side, multiple docs open, no issue, no hiccups, no stutters. Chrome, also really good. If those are your use cases, and that's what you do with a computer, then this is going to be great. Now there are other options, other OSs that do sort of similar things for less money, but if your jam is productivity, the Laptop 3 is an awesome way to go if it fits in the budget. So assuming you're doing productivity tasks, you want it to last a while. If you're not able to plug in, battery life is pretty decent. I got about the average 7.5 to 8 hours of battery life on here. Now, some reviewers had issues with it losing battery life when it was just sort of closed and in idle. We didn't experience those problems. And another caveat here is the battery size in the 15 is identical to the battery size in the 13-inch. So you're not getting more battery life for the larger size. So I wasn't under the expectation this was going to be a gaming or performance powerhouse. That's not what it's meant for, and to expect it to do that, I think isn't fair. But you may occasionally want to do some light gaming, and you may occasionally want to edit on it. So we put up a relatively low intensive game. We tried Rocket League, and at the lowest settings, it was absolutely playable and completely fine. But if you step up in the settings, it starts to stutter and you see the problem. If you want to put on more graphic intensive games, it's not going to work for that. So what about video editing? So we put Premiere Pro on here. We tried to render out a 3.5 minute 4K timeline. And just to render out that timeline took about 10 minutes. But again, with ultrabooks like this, you're not expecting them to be gaming powerhouses or editing powerhouses. But usually at this price point, you generally have a Thunderbolt 3 port that can sort of take an external GPU and make this into a more powerful computer. When it comes to I/O, we do have USB-C, which is a nice addition to the Surface line, but it's not Thunderbolt 3, so you can't plug in an external GPU and sort of take this from pretty solid Ultrabook performance to outstanding desktop level performance. And I think that's a big miss for Microsoft. So for the rest of the I/O, it does have that one USB Type-C. You've got a USB-A, and I like that there's both of those legacy and the new I/O on there. You've got a 3.5mm headset jack, and then sitting alone is that Microsoft proprietary Connect port. It's a magnetic port. It is capable of quick charging, which is nice, but that's it, and it seems to me like a waste of space. It used to be great because Microsoft made docks where you could plug in a bunch of stuff and get a bunch of new I/O from that port, but you can get that same thing with Thunderbolt 3. In a lot of ways, that same thing with USB Type-C, so it seems like a waste to have that here. And I do want to mention though, while it will quick charge with the Microsoft Connect proprietary charge port, it can also charge via the USB Type-C port. I like that Microsoft is working with AMD to create the sort of custom silicon that will work with the Surface line. That's great. But the big elephant in the room is just kind of a low pro secret version of the Surface Laptop 3 that uses Intel. And that version presumably will generally be better in almost all of these benchmarks. But it's not widely available to the public. You can't go to the Microsoft Store and pick one up or even order one from Microsoft Store online. You have to be part of their business portal or an enterprise customer to get access to that Intel skewed Surface Laptop 3. There's only a $100 price point in there too. I think that's probably the best way to go if it was available. And I get that Microsoft wants to push the AMD partnership. And again, it's gonna depend on your use cases, but if you wanna do a little bit more with your laptop, I think the Ryzen processor and GPU holds it back a little bit. So this is a computer that's building up for some people. This is a laptop that works well in certain confines. It's not a laptop for everyone that can hit pretty much every use case that you go for. So if you're considering the Surface Laptop 3, make sure you're very squarely in the productivity camp and you don't venture out too much into gaming, editing, or 3D rendering, then you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So this whole video, the theme is give and take. There's good, and then there's bad. Despite the bad, I still really like the Surface Laptop 3. In fact, for what I use laptops for, this would probably be a perfect computer for me. But it's very clearly not a perfect computer for everybody. If you are in that productivity camp, you live in Office or Chrome in Google Docs, and you occasionally want to watch video, you occasionally want to do some light gaming or maybe some small project video editing, this is going to work for you. If you want a laptop that can scale up to your needs, plug in external GPU, can handle some sort of intensive gaming or video editing or 3D rendering, this is not going to be a computer you should consider, and it's probably not meant for those people. But if you want a computer that has absolutely premium build quality, amongst the best keyboard and trackpad experience going, has a beautiful touchscreen and incredible design, and looks unique, the Surface Laptop 3 is an amazing way to go.